This is a technique that anyone can use to quickly start experiencing full body states of orgasm without ejaculating. Hey guys, I'm Jonathan White. I'm here to help you master your sexual energy so you can manifest your ideal life. If you want to learn more about sexual mastery, make sure you subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to stay notified when I release new videos. Make sure you get my free ejaculation control course through the link in the video description below. So in this video, I'm going to share a very simple technique that anyone can use to experience full body states of orgasm without ejaculating. For men, ejaculation and orgasm are actually two separate processes that with some training, you can learn to separate. So you can learn to have orgasm without ejaculating. Therefore, you can experience orgasms without that hormonal change that happens with an ejaculation where you have to recover, go through that refractory period as your testosterone is lowered. So the most important aspect of being able to experience non-ejaculatory orgasms and full body orgasms, the more energetic kind, which I'm talking about, right? Not just the peak orgasm that is limited to the genitals, which you can experience by simply squeezing the pelvic floor at the moment before ejaculation. That's a very limited type of orgasm. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about deep states of full body orgasm that are quite a different experience than the ejaculatory orgasm. And because of this, men can have difficulty in learning to experience these types of orgasms because in the beginning, they're very subtle. They're not as powerful and obvious as the ejaculatory orgasm, right? Because the ejaculatory orgasm is a peak orgasm, has a very obvious beginning, has a short-lived duration, 5 to 10 seconds, and then it's over, and your energy drops down afterwards, right? So it's a very obvious apparent orgasm, and we often get addicted to this type of orgasm, but there are many other types of orgasms you can experience. And this type of orgasm I'm going to be sharing with you that you'll learn how to experience is more of what's referred to as a valley orgasm. This is more of a state of orgasm. It's more of an opening to this full body expansion of orgasmic energy. And there's no release of the sexual charge that you're building up, right? So there's no period at the end where you're like, okay, I release my energy, I feel satisfied, I'm gonna roll over and go to sleep now. It's different because the energy keeps building and building. So if you're expecting that ejaculatory release, you're not going to get that from this technique. It's a very different type of orgasm. I like to define orgasm as simply a pleasurable wave of experience in the body that is beyond what you normally experience in your day-to-day life, right? So with this definition, it liberates us a bit and we can start to expand on what we consider as an orgasm, and we can learn to amplify these orgasmic states, which start out very subtle but can become much, much more powerful and much longer lived than an ejaculatory orgasm. And you can have them as often as you want, basically, without losing energy. So the technique itself is really simply about relaxing into the orgasm. For men, ejaculation is basically a tension response in the body. All of this sexual arousal builds up. You start to feel all this tension in your pelvic floor, in your groin area, right? It's like that pressure as the arousal builds. And when this pressure builds up to a certain point, it kind of short circuits your system and it switches on the fight or flight response, the sympathetic nervous system, which ejaculation is linked to. And then the ejaculation starts to take place because basically at your maximum capacity for sexual pressure, sexual arousal, we could say, right? And this switches on that ejaculatory response to release this sexual charge from the body. But if you can learn to hold a greater degree of sexual arousal, sexual charge in the body without triggering this ejaculatory response, then you can get into very, very heightened states of orgasm without ejaculating and sustain these for as long as you want. And of course, there's many techniques of doing this. I'm going to be focusing on a very simple technique in this video, again, which is just centered on relaxation. There's a tendency for men to tense up their bodies during sex because as this arousal is building, as you're experiencing pleasure, many of us have this unconscious pattern of tensing up our bodies in response to pleasure. Notice this, next time you're having sex or you're self-stimulating, notice where you start to tense up in your bodies. The most common areas I've noticed that tension builds up in my body are my pelvic floor area. You start to constrict the BC, the PC muscle in the pelvic floor. My belly, the abdominal region, my shoulders, my face. And when I'm unconscious about it, I used to really let my breath get very shallow and breathe from the chest, right? So all of these things are going to contribute to the sympathetic nervous system switching on and triggering the ejaculation response. So if you can learn to relax through sexual stimulation, I mean like really, really relax, like imagine your body's like melting like butter into the earth. That's the state of relaxation that you want to be holding in response to sexual pleasure. Then you can start to hold so much more sexual pleasure in your body, get into a higher state of orgasm, and it allows the energy to flow freely through the body. On an energetic level, tension is kind of like you have this electrical circuit and one of the wires is frayed, right? It's disconnected, so the energy cannot flow through that point in the circuit. Same thing with our body. When you have tension patterns in the body, when you start to tense things up, it constricts the flow of energy. The energy cannot move through the tension. And so if you're holding all this tension in your belly, your pelvic floor, then the sexual energy gets stuck in your genitals and you can only experience an ejaculatory orgasm where the energy explodes out of your genitals. So if you can keep your body relaxed, keep your body very, very relaxed through sexual stimulation, then you will allow this orgasmic current to flow through your entire body. And this will bring you into very, very pleasurable states of orgasm, much beyond what most men experience in an ejaculatory orgasm. So basically what you're going to do is either stimulate yourself. It's good to practice these types of techniques on yourself because there's a lot more pressure, a lot more excitement when you're with a partner, right? So I always recommend learning in a solo environment, right? If you have a partner who's willing to do this work with you, that's great as well. But you're gonna really need to be able to control the amount of stimulation that you're experiencing to use this technique properly. So basically what you're going to do is stimulate yourself or have your partner stimulate you very, very slowly. Men have this tendency to rush into the highest levels of arousal and stimulation that they can as soon as possible. And this is a pattern that can contribute to premature ejaculation, right? And a very, very limited experience of orgasm. Because the longer your sexual experience is able to last, the more chance that you have of getting into these high full body orgasm states, because it just takes time to really build up the sexual charge and allow the body to open up to really harness that charge, we could say. So stimulate very, very slowly and mindfully and focus on keeping completely relaxed. You can use deep belly breathing to enhance this relaxation. That's the primary things you want to focus on is deep belly breathing and relaxing your body. And notice as you're stimulating where you're starting to tense up in your body. So your base level is complete relaxation. Like I said, extreme relaxation, like consistent focusing your mind within your body to see where tension is arising. This can take some training because many people are very disconnected from their bodies. And so as soon as you notice tension arise, most likely it's going to be in your pelvic floor, your abdominal area, but anywhere in the body, right? As soon as you notice that, stop, take a deep breath and relax that tension pattern, and then continue. And as you do this and slowly build into higher levels of arousal over a period of time, then you'll start to get to this very, very high degree of arousal and sexual pleasure. So let's use a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the point of no return, the point at which ejaculation is triggered. I recommend taking at least 10 minutes to get beyond about level 6, right? Because if you get into these high levels of arousal too quickly, it's difficult to control it. But if you can slowly bring yourself to aroused state, you will have a much easier time controlling that high level of arousal once you get there. And then once you eventually get to a level 8 or 9, try to stay in that level and relax deeper and deeper. As the arousal builds more, relax your body. Make sure you keep everything relaxed, slow down the stimulation, use less intensity in your stimulation, and see if you can deeply relax through the stimulation and allow that pleasurable feeling, that buildup in your genitals to move through your entire body. You can focus on specific areas of your body to do this. For example, it likely will first move into your belly. For me, it feels like butterflies in my stomach. So I'll focus on my belly area as, I'm stimulating or being stimulated and see if I can move the arousal there. And you'll start to feel this deep, pleasurable sensation. That's an orgasm starting, right? Because usually once we start to feel this high level of pleasure, we tense up our bodies, and it actually kind of constricts that pleasure. But when you can relax through those intense, pleasurable experiences, those waves in the body, you will experience some very, very heightened states of orgasmic sensations. So that's basically the technique. You're focusing on keeping yourself as relaxed as possible. And it's very important that you stay focused in this practice. The primary focal point is keeping your breath deep and consistent and keeping your body relaxed, noticing as tension starts to arise in your body. So this is a very foundational technique that can help you start to experience these kind of altered states of full body orgasm, which are different than the ejaculatory orgasm. And these states can be very, very nourishing and healing for you actually, because orgasm is important for us as humans. It helps our cells reproduce properly. It helps our DNA to be properly activated as well. So experiencing orgasm regularly is very, very important for our mental, physical, emotional, spiritual health. But The type of orgasm and your approach to sexuality makes a big difference as well. If you're only experiencing ejaculatory peak orgasms, where you're very unconscious about your connection with your partner, your connection with yourself, you're just trying to release stress, this is a depleting pattern. But if you're doing practices like what I've shared in this video that are actually contributing to you cultivating your sexual energy, forming a harmonious relationship to it, and using it to build your energy and develop a deeper connection to your own body and to develop a deeper connection to yourself and to your partner, then it can be very, very healing and very, very beneficial for you. And some men are going to have a really hard time resisting the tension that arises in the body, because a lot of us have these very deeply ingrained tension patterns, and it can take some more underlying work to dissolve these. And that's really what I get into in my 6-week course, Multi-Orgasmic Man, is how to set the foundations to safely cultivate high levels of sexual energy, experience multiple non-ejaculatory orgasms, and last for hours in bed. So if you want to learn more about that course, find more information in the description of this video. So thank you for watching this video. Enjoy this technique, practice it regularly, and you will start to experience some very, very significantly intensified sexual experiences. Please subscribe to my channel, like this video, and leave a comment below. Have a great day, my friends.